Start recording. We are go. Welcome, folks, to another in our series of Be Phenomenal web trainings. I tell you, I couldn't be more pumped about tonight's because, as you can see there on the screen, we have none other than the 6'4" behemoth, Matt Steinwede, my man. Thanks for hanging out with us, bud.
Thanks, mate. I don't know if that's a compliment or not.
Of course it is, man. Of course it is, man. And for those folks who are wondering,
what a behemoth is.
but here it's just a big dude. I don't know. When we did an event with John McGrath, it was last year, I think. John, you were up on stage doing your thing, and John said, "I haven't seen Matty for a couple of months. Geez, he's looking good." You know, like because you were really fit. You had a muscular shirt on. You must have trimmed down a little bit or something. And John was saying, "Gee, Matty's looking lean. Have a look at him." It was pretty cool, mate. So, no, definitely a compliment. But welcome, mate. Thanks for joining us for the night. Lots of cool stuff to get through, man. So, mate, thanks for making yourself available, but I appreciate it.
Thanks, mate. I'm all yours. So you do have your way with me.
See, you hear that, girls? You hear that? All right, so, folks, for you guys, now, look, Matt needs no introduction, but Matt is considered by many. I did hear John McGrath, and I quote, say that Matt Steinwede is the best real estate agent on the planet. You will not meet a more humble guy. Author of a book called The MAt Steinwede Real Estate System, which now, Matt, of course, I also have purchased multiple editions of MAt Steinwede, the Real Estate System, an audio program, which I highly recommend, matsteinwede.com. This is a program I describe as it should have come with your real estate license. Because it's just, I mean, Chris Gilmore and I, when we first bought this, we were just sitting there going, this is it. This is a career in a box. And then Matt went and made it, for those who couldn't afford the CDs, you went and made a $30 version of the system. Mate, unbelievable. So, guys, matsteinwede.com, avail yourself of those things. And, of course, Matt is the co-presenter of VPA, the system, with the great man Tom Panos. So, guys, Matt shouldn't need an introduction, but that is Matt. He's an author, speaker, and just all-round real estate legend. And his new talk, It's All About the Lemon, is, I think, going to be your piece de resistance, Matt. If you turn this story into a book the way you've described it to me, I truly do think that this could be your brand that breaks you not only to be the real estate legend that you are, but that can have mainstream connotations as well. I mean, have you got that feeling about your new kind of way of putting and summarising what Matt Steinwede has done?
Oh, mate, for sure. That All About the Lemon is, yeah, it can be used by anybody. It's really the definition of my whole career. I was approached by a book lady recently and said, you know, I heard you got the story and blah, blah, blah. And she's quite a famous one too. Like, she handles a lot of celebrities. Not that I'm a celebrity, but I come across her, and she just invited me to lunch. And she rang me back like a week later and said, look, because I had to etch her out like a one-pager. She said, wow. She goes, because I put about 5% of my story in there, but I really wanted it to be like, it's all about the lemon. She rang me back and she said, whoa, that story's a bit like, are you sure you want to publish that? And I was like, I'm glad I didn't actually tell her everything. She goes, oh, she said, I don't know, if you publish this, you know, you could really have some, like, a bit of attention around you for all different reasons. And I'm like, I know, that's why I never had.
Okay.
Anyway, I said to her, like, I really more want it to be angled that it's all about the lemon, not my story exactly. And then I got off the phone from her and I thought, no, I just got to write it myself because it's sort of in my brain, but it just takes so long to write a book.
Definitely, mate. And well, for those of us who've seen you speak before, would you say that you've shared with us more than 5%, or do we only know 5% with some of those, you know, early tales that you tell us of Matt's history?
No, you know, like less than the 5%.
Wow, see, you scare me, man, because that 5%'s pretty. Well, for those who haven't told the story, I mean, without, you know, tonight's about answering some of these questions for these guys.
Sorry, come on.
You don't worry about. Okay, Matt was a bad dude, or at least did some bad things, and now Matt is the nicest man. This isn't just me being all nice because Matt's my guest. I've I've told people off air that Matt Steinwede is one of the most genuine human beings on this planet. And if you didn't tell me in all honesty about your history, folks, he was on Australia's Most Wanted, for goodness sake. Whoa. I wouldn't have believed it, mate. I would have said they're full of crap, if someone told me that. So, mate, I'm looking forward to hearing the new story. It's all about the lemon and the new way that you've wrapped up your attitude, which of course will be summarized in your answers to tonight's questions, I'm sure. So folks, for tonight is a training. It's not a pitch, it's not a plug, it's not a teaser. Tonight is a training, but of course it's presented and in support of, if you like tonight, then you might consider coming along to our event with Matt and a host of other speakers, including the aforementioned John McGrath, a who's who of Australian $1 million real estate performers, and Eric Thomas from the States, who...
I do want to make it clear too, Twids, that you started this thing with products at the beginning. I'm not on here to sell any product. I don't care if anyone buys none. I don't even want people to buy them. I'm just on here because you asked me that.
I know, man. I know. And you know what? But the thing is that I think it's a crime if I don't avail my students and my friends and these guys, that if they don't have that $30 book of yours, then I think I will buy them your book. In fact, I did. Remember when the book was first launched?
Yeah, I just want everyone to know I'm only on here because you asked me to be, and I'm happy to help, but I'm not on here to sell product. When people start selling product, I just go, oh.
Yeah, I know, man. I know, but you know what? I am here to sell you Matt's products, but no, I'm not. We're here to let's get into it. Let's get into it. Absolutely, man. Yes. Okay, so let's go with the first one. Now, many of these questions are hybrid questions asked in different ways by many people. So, man, this one's just putting you on the spot, I know, because this is a bigger question probably than we have time for tonight. But let's go through it, man. What are the specific activities that'll result in someone selling, what to many people is an impossible task of selling 20 a month, which probably means you've got to list 25 a month. Mate, there's the big one. We're going to start with the doozy.
Well, I think let's get it right, because I don't always sell 20 a month.
No, I get that.
Yep. Sometimes it's 12, sometimes it's 15, but it's like, I don't even think the number is that important. What I do think is important is, like, big numbers don't happen by accident. So even 10 properties a month is like a large number to handle, like to sell and also to list. So if you're going to list 10, sell 10, I think it's a bit of an illusion in this business that, these high performers or people who sell a lot, it just sort of happens by all these people ringing in all the time. But if you break it down and you look at it, let's say it was, just call it 10. So let's say 10 sales for that month or 10 listings for that month, probably more like it. Some of those I might have been speaking to for 15 years. So 3 or 4 of them, I might have, they might have been on my hot list and I might have been following them up for 15, 18, 20 years.
Yep.
Then another 1 or 2 might just be people who maybe haven't been followed up that intensely, but just in my core area and know my profile and sort of just want to sell with me.
Mm-hmm.
And then there might be a referral or 2, and you might get 1 or 2 that come through for the month that they're just calling 4 or 5 agents in. They're the worst ones. I don't even really want to go to those ones a lot of the time. I do go sometimes, but if they're just calling me because we happen to be in McGrath and they want, and they say to when people ring and they go, hey, we're thinking of selling our place, can you come over? We've got 3 other agents coming as well.
Yep.
A lot of the time, I will probably give that to one of the other agents. Right. So I just want to get that right. That we talk about big numbers, we talk about whatever the number may be, but it sort of doesn't happen in isolation. There's a lot of other stuff that's gone into that to create that. So especially new people, because new people can sometimes look at that and think, well, how am I supposed to sell that many a month? And I'm only getting 1 listing a month.
Mm-hmm.
But we've all been there. But I think the thing that counts the most is what are you doing today to take yourself there over the next 5 years or 10 years,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. Yeah, I heard that.
Sometimes
Go
it
ahead.
can
Go ahead.
feel like a big reach. It can feel like a big reach, and it can be a bit demotivating.
I definitely get that, Matt, in that we've had, even as part of Be Phenomenal, like I'm looking at the lineup down the bottom there, and we've got Matt, Marcus, and young Tom Carlin from WA all doing $2 million plus a year in gross commissions. Chris, Aaron, Michael Spillane, and Phil Harris, who have all been or currently are $1 million performers. And sometimes that can seem a little out of reach to the guy who's earning 60 or 70,000 a year. So I definitely take your point on board. And I heard someone say once, and I've been very conscious of wording this differently, that when you meet the MAt Steinwedes of this world, and they didn't name you, but when we meet Matt, I remember he said, don't ask what he does, ask what he did, to go from that one listing a month to 5 kind of thing,
Yeah, that's exactly right. So you're sort of at where you're at, and then, the best question around that, it's sort of what this is, what specific activities that result in me selling 20 properties a month. Yeah, what specific activities result in selling 20 properties a month 15 years ago? That's what I want to know. That's what I would want to know. If I was a newish agent or an agent that's looking to double or triple, and we talk about 2xing our business in this thing all the time. How do you double your business? How do you go from 500 to $1 million? I can tell you right now, going from 500 to $1 million is a headache. There's so much more management that has to go on with that, and there's PAs and there's volume and there's staff and whatever. Just enjoy where you're at and learn how to manage your day the best you physically can, and it will naturally happen over time. I'm just sort of flagging it. Don't be in a rush to get anywhere.
Yep. So, mate, again, well, let's go back to, because I've read so many of your books and blog posts and watched so many of your videos. This seems second nature to me. So I've got to kind of remember some of these guys don't know this. So if we go back 15 years, let's talk about some of those things that took you from in those activities that you were doing back then in your first, say, 5-10 years. Because even you've said to me that you didn't really start hit your stride with serious numbers till about the 10-year mark, So,
about 10 years, I reckon. Yeah.
So what were the first 5 and 10 like?
Well, it was just building, and I didn't really have any expectation on what I should or shouldn't be doing, apart from I just wanted to write, if it was 30,000 a month, no, that's not right, 30,000 a year, then earlier on, then I'd want to write 60 the next year, and not 30, let me fix that up. 30,000, really early on, I was writing about, 20,000 a month, sorry, 20,000 a month, and that's where I wanted to get to when I was just new, and then I just did whatever I could to get to that point. Then once I reached it, I was like, okay, what's the next number? But I didn't really, focus too much on am I there, am I not. I just knew I'd get there, and that was just the sort of, and I didn't care how long it took. So if I went from $250,000, and then in my mind I think it would be nice to write 500. Didn't really matter when I got there or how I got there. I just kept doing the things that I knew worked. So, which is what you're asking. So I would get up in the morning at 4:30, and then I would watch a video of the top 10 McGrath agents. This is before I even knew what McGrath was really. And then I just knew that they were the best in the country at the time, and I would just watch half an hour of what they'd say. And it was just interviews with each and every one. Then I would go and hand deliver letters for the next 2 hours, and then I'd come back, have breakfast, go to the office. I'd get the bus to the office, and then I'd just start putting together my day, buy a follow-up or whatever I had to do for that day, create a to-do list, and then I'd go and door knock for maybe 5 hours.
Wow.
And then I would come back, and then I'd talk to any owners that I have or anything like that. I'd get my letters ready for the next day. I'd do any appointments that I had, and I'd get the bus home again. Then I would sit there, that would be 8 o'clock at night by the time I finished my day, and then I would sit there and fold letters until midnight, and then I'd do it again the next day, and I did that for years.
Wow. So Matt, now, I mean, this is a question from me. With a 4 or 5 a.m. start till a midnight finish,
Yeah.
I mean, that doesn't sound like work-life balance. And we hear a lot of people, including yourself, talk now about work-life balance, but back then you didn't have it. Do you think that that was necessary to go that hard in order to become the Matt Steinwede, I suppose, dominant legend, I suppose, whatever the word might be, that you are today? Is it necessary to have done it that hard early?
I think it was. I think it was, Twigs. Looking back on my career, I really think it was, because it taught me a lot. It taught me about my own capacity, what I was able to do, and it really it really created a work ethic that I still don't know many people parallel in my area today. Even my main competitor, if I lose a listing to him, he'll ring me up and say, "Mate, they picked me, but really they picked the wrong bloke. You work 10 times harder than me, but oh well."
Oh, God.
It goes, even when I bought out that MAt Steinwede book, he rang me and said, "Mate, can you sign me 2 copies?" Wow. And I'm like, "Yeah, of course I can." And he has a lot of admiration for how hard I work a lot less now, but I still work very focused. Nothing matters while I'm there. But I do think it's very important to it, because what happened is it allowed me to get saturation, allowed me to get liftoff. And I think a lot of agents don't actually experience that liftoff, where all of a sudden you've got the universe pushing you because you've earned the space, you've earned the right to have all of these results coming to you like a flood. But you first have to be that momentum before the momentum's reflected back to you from the universe. So I think in my case, yes, it was. Plus I was turning my life around, so I had something to prove to myself. And I just knew it was an opportunity, and if I took the opportunity and really ran with it with everything in my body, every conviction that I had, and just focused forward, I knew it would go somewhere, and it did. It went somewhere really fast. And when I say fast, it took a few years, but after 3 years or so, it really I could see things starting to happen.
And when you say took the bus to the office, were these in the same sort of days when you were doing that when you were prospecting on foot?
Yeah.
Wow. Wow. So guys, whatever your problems might be now, not having a car, I would suspect by comparison, makes your problems kind of first world problems, I would suggest. Very cool, man.
I think saying that with, sometimes we go, "Oh yeah, okay, well, that was hard," or whatever, but it's I think when I wanted to become #1 in the country. That's what I wanted to be. At some point it just went, I just want to be the best at this thing, and I rang my mate and I said, "Mate, this is exactly," or as people know, I was into drug importation and dealing before I got into real estate. But I rang my mate, who was also from the underworld, and I said, "Mate, this is exactly like drug dealing, but it's legal." And I said to him, "I just want to become the best at this thing." And it's sort of not exactly the same, but when I was in the underworld, I developed a profile very quickly because I made myself get the biggest, when I was steroid induced, I made myself become massive, and I got really well connected, and I sort of used those same principles for real estate in a way.
Wow, yeah, I see what you're saying. I've never thought of it that way, but yeah, definitely. And for those of you guys who are, this is an early, maybe this, you just said, as everyone knows, I was in the underworld and all. What if someone was on this web training, Matt, who didn't know that? So there you go. Welcome to, welcome guys. I've said to a few people, I said, all those characters in Underbelly, Matt told me he knew all them. Bloody hell.
I do. Well, the toolbox murderer was my best mate. I lived with him for years.
Oh, goodness, mate. All right. So let's get on to the next one. And again, because we've gone 20 minutes already. Jesus, mate, I know it's nearly your bedtime for these 4 a.m. starts. How do I stop good month, bad month syndrome?
Yeah, that's a great question. I reckon that's awesome. And that's the answer to real estate, that one there. So how do you stop good month, bad month? It just comes down to listing supply. You've got the listings, you're going to own the market. And I work a core area, so I think as most people know, that's really my specialty. So I learned about my 1,000 homes or whatever, you want to work, but 1,000 homes, that's the answer to having consistent months. So if you talk about those 10 sales a month, for instance, now I'm using 10 because 10 is a fairly reachable number for most people. So 10 sales a month, you should be invited to half of those listings in your core area every month if you're working your core area correctly over a period of time. And there is definitely strategy. There's a formula to do that. So that takes half of your not so good months away once you get a bit of traction, and that might take you a year, 2 or 3. I know Chris did it in a year or 2, but it might take some people 3.
Yep.
But if you've got 10, that's 4 or 5 coming from your core area every single month. You're meeting people at open houses and all this sort of stuff. You just got to follow up buyers, open houses, your referral network outside of that. And then before you know it, you've got these 2 business units going on that should produce at least 8 to 10 listings a month, even when you're building, you know?
Yep.
And that's how you go from the 250s, the 500s, the 750s, the million. It actually builds without you trying to build it, because more people get to know you, more people. This is my point. I went to a 2-day seminar yesterday with Rupert Murdoch and Paul Cave, who started the bridge climb.
Yep.
Tom Peters.
Tom Peters, yeah, the Excellence book. Yeah, I read that a while back.
That's it. And, you know, something that was really, really interesting that they said about sales. And they said today the consumer has already made the decision to use you before you go to their home.
Absolutely.
So 80% of the decision has been made before you even go there. What I did many years ago when I heard about this concept, probably like 18 years ago, I went, that sounds pretty good. I just made that happen way before the internet and all that sort of stuff. I went, I just got to get these people in this patch really connected to me and be that person. I wanted to become the face of real estate, because I used to think, okay, they wake up and they want to call LJ Hooker, Ray White, McGrath, First National, whoever. I wanted them to think MAt Steinwede, and that's the way I thought all of those years ago. So all that I did is I made it really easy for people to remember me, to know me, and I just saturated that area so well. And I also got really in tune with it. It's not a matter of just throwing heaps of stuff at them. I almost tailored my marketing to sort of where the area was up to and where each person was up to. So over a period of time, I just became the person that they would naturally think of, but they already knew that they were going to list with me before they met me, or I come to their house, or they had me over.
Absolutely, mate. And yeah, it's kind of like you, and you know, having read your stuff when you wrote it and were doing this, it's kind of like I scoured the world and spent hundreds of thousands of dollars to find this stuff that you'd been doing 10 years before I met you, you bugger.
Yeah. You know, I had a training session with 3 new recruits in our office today. And Nat, one of the girls, was there, and she said to me, we're talking about the CMA, because there's a sequence that needs to happen with this. So like there's, you know, the asking if you're thinking of selling, the thank you cards, the letters, all of the usual stuff, but it's when you do it and like the rhythm that you do it that counts. And then the turning point is the delivery of the CMA. And the new thing that I'm doing in my area now will be the death of the CMA, but I'll tell you about that later. But the CMA is the turning point. And Nat said to me today, she was looking at one of my CMAs. Nat was a pretty successful business lady in sales in another sort of industry. She said, Matt, that's just rubbish, because she had the CMA in front of her. She said, every agent does these. In Sydney, every agent puts these in letterboxes. Every agent does this, like blah, blah, blah. And she was just sort of going, that's what's so different about that? And I said, Nat, it's not the CMA. It's in the delivery. And she went, oh, what do you mean? And I said, well, what I do is once I get the area to a point where saturation's starting to happen, then I drop a letter off to 10 homes and I say that I'm going to call them, and I have a script that basically gets them to say yes, and it's very easy, and it's sort of my style. It's conversational. It's not in your face.
Yep.
And then I take a picture of their home. I put it on the front of the report, and on the 3rd day, I go over and I knock on the door. I give it to them. They look in my eyes, and I say, Mrs. Jones, this is your report I mentioned yesterday. See you later. Have a good day. They open the report. It's got a picture of their house on the front. It's got a neighbourhood report in there as well. and every 6 months for the rest of their life, on that day, they're going to get another one. So exactly 6 months' time, for the rest of their life, they're going to get another one sent to them from me with a picture of their house on the front, updated as the years go on. And she went, oh. I said, Nat, I don't think there's, and I don't know, but I don't think that there's any agent in the country that does that like I do.
Yep. And I've heard, Matt, you say that, you know, one of the things that, you know, because she said every agent in Sydney does it. I agree with you that no one does it, especially not for the protracted period of time, 10 a day, for years on end, getting into that rhythm like you do. What's the longest you think you've seen someone, maybe in your area, try to keep up with that sequence? Would it be a month or two? What do you think?
Yeah, they don't. They all try this CMA. See, what the CMA is like the tipping point. So when you do all of this other stuff and you're just there, there's a rule, 9 to 12 contacts, people start to become your friend. But around that point, you start the CMA. And then my whole prospecting converts to just information giving, not asking anymore. I still ask sometimes, like today when I was prospecting, I said to John at Max, I was like, so John, you getting any closer to selling? So I still ask, but most people from that point, I just let them know about what's happening, what's sold, all that sort of stuff, because I don't need to ask anymore, because they're getting all of this other stuff from me and I become a very trusted advisor. So what was the question again, by the way?
It was, does anyone keep up? And it's kind of like, do you think that it's the consistency, it's 10 a day, it's the fact that no one can keep up with that sheer amount? It's just sheer weight of numbers, isn't it? You know, 70 of those things or 50 of those things a week for years on end, mate, someone's going to do something with MAt Steinwede.
Yeah, it is, but you only ever have to physically drop it off once, and then the rest you send out every other time. And the power of it is when you knock on the door and look at them and give it to them. See, Nat was talking about the people in Sydney and agents in Sydney, they just put them in letterboxes and send them out. And that's what they still do that in my area. Every now and then an agent will have a spurt of whatever and they'll send CMAs out like a blanket CMA. And they basically just copy mine, exactly what I send out. They almost copy it. It looks the same. And then, but they just blanket it. And they might do that once or twice and then they just don't do it anymore. Whereas mine, people bank on me. And I think when your prospecting isn't about finding a lead. Your prospecting is about building a relationship. But to me, it's about demonstrating my work ethic and becoming bankable in their mind. So when they go to sell their house, that part's already done. When they think talking to an agent and interviewing agents, they're not sure if what they're saying is going to match their behaviour later. I've just proved it over the last 10 plus years that I'm bankable, I'm consistent, and I have work ethic like nobody else. That's half of the battle, proving it to an owner.
Yeah, absolutely.
When you're like against other agents or when they're interviewing agents, because they just think that we talk crap.
Yep. And with the saturation that you've mentioned a few times, Matt, and I know I'm telegraphing this question, but because I know the answer. But mate, how thick a skin does even you know, the guy described by myself and others as the nicest guy in the game, mate, do you still get negative feedback if you're marketing that hard and that, I suppose, saturating?
Yeah, I do. I get people writing back saying, F off, you idiot, and, you know, look at your hairstyle and all this sort of stuff. But I think I'm moderated. I'm really in sync with my area. So I know when to step it up and I know when to ease off. I know when to step it up, I know when to ease off. But initially, to get to saturation, you've got to almost start to get most people offside because you're just that active.
Okay.
Once you get to that point, you can feel it, and then it's like an accelerator. You back off a little bit. You don't do a letter every fortnight. You do a letter once a month, and you stick to that, and that's all you do. And not just a letter, but just with the letters once a month. And then you've got your thank you cards and your calls and all that sort of stuff on top. But you back it off, and then you ramp it up. You back it off, and you ramp it up.
Mate, I think I should take some lessons from you, Matty. I've been going hard with daily emails for 5 years. I think I'll back it up a little bit.
You can still do that, Twids, and I still have people say, man, Twids is out of control with his emails. But the only thing that I really wish you would do is
learn how to type? Yeah, learn how to type.
Your emails. There's so many spelling mistakes.
I know, man. I know. But you know what? But the fact that you know that says that you're reading them. Most people don't read anything.
I do. But it is your style and you have to be authentic. So
All right, Matty, next one. And this has been asked in a few ways, but there's a composite question. How do I put together the very best day? And is there such a thing as an ideal day, ideal week?
Yeah, great question. Just keep it very, very simple. I've had all the, I reckon half the training stuff is a load of rubbish. And when I say half the training stuff, like this ideal week and segment all these times and do this, it's not realistic. Like, I've got 6 kids. I've got almost 100 staff. I've got 3 offices. I still list and sell. Like, I don't know what Thursday's going to bring.
Yeah.
Like, I just don't. Like, I could have one of my kids ring up from school, and believe me, with that many kids, they do ring up from school regularly. Oh, Jackson's in sick bay, and he's bunging it on half the time, and what do? Do you not go? Like, I can't, their mum just goes, tell him to stay there, but I don't. I go, they ring me, I can't, I'm a soft guy, come on, come hang with me then, he doesn't want to be there, obviously. But anyway, that's off the track. But, you can have the best intentions for this ideal week, but you really can only narrow it down to the day. And I just plan my day the night before, very simply. I don't spend hours, 5 minutes. I look at my appointments. I get mentally checked on where I need to be. Then I plan my prospecting around it. I always like to do my prospecting in the morning. That's my preferred time. But like tomorrow is a good example. I've got a guy who's coming up for a market opinion from Sydney at 10:30, and then I've got to be in Sydney at 1:30 for a vendor meeting. So I'll have my call sheets and I'll do them on the way to Sydney. So tomorrow's prospecting is going to be different than today's prospecting, where I prospected probably a third of the day today at different times. An hour to come back, do another half an hour, go on list one, come back. And tonight I was just on my hot list. So I think being flexible, like a bit flowing like water, is the best approach. You'll sustain it much easier.
Yeah. Do you think there's any? Oh, go ahead. Sorry, finish.
I think you can't let yourself off. I'm probably pretty good at feeling like I prospected for that many years and so long that if I don't prospect, I feel a bit like I haven't done my teeth. And I think with agents, it's very easy to be busy and go, I just didn't get around to it. Whereas that sort of doesn't happen to me very often. I'll go, no, I've got to at least do an hour, so I make sure that I fit it in, and I make sure that I do it, and I've got that sensitivity internally going, hey, you're being authentic or not. You're being like just an average agent if you don't prospect, whereas I want to be a champion agent, so I've got to prospect. So I really have that pleasure or pain thing, and believe it or not, I get a bit of pleasure from completing the prospecting, so I actually rather tune into that than have the pain of going to bed and going, I gypped myself 20 contacts today. That's going to cost me down the track somewhere.
I heard one of my mentors once, I think it was Jim Rowan, saying, we're going to feel one of two pains, the pain of discipline or the pain of regret, and discipline weighs less than regret, so
yeah.
Pretty cool little analogy, and I'm not always the best at it, but that's what I try and do. Okay, so look, I think we might have covered this one, man, but actually let's go through that one strategy. What's the recipe for becoming the face of real estate in your area? Definitely you've covered that in some detail, but do you want to tell us about launching in your new area? Like, remember when you had that reboot, that rebrand, when you already had a successful business in one area and you rebooted, rebranded at least once in a new area, and you just duplicated it all over again to the same degree of success or even beyond?
Yeah. Well, for sure. Like I work 2 areas myself now, but because I surf in one area and I've done the other area for a million years, so I just wanted to do the other area, but it's a small one. Is this what you mean, or do you mean where I opened it off?
There was the why Matt. The Who's Matt campaign.
Yeah, Who's Matt Steinwede. Yeah. Well, that's what I did in my original area, mate, a long time ago, and it was a really good campaign. And what I was going to say here is, I reckon a lot of your marketing, Twids, is excellent for this stuff. So a lot of what you do and what you teach is fantastic, because I've had a few key campaigns that have really got people talking, and they still talk about it today. Like at the Be Phenomenal event, I'll probably talk about one of the first things that I did is gave people an offer, because I didn't really know anyone in the area, but I was so hungry I just can't even explain it. It was like bleeding out my eyes. I was that hungry to live in list houses. And I put a DL flyer out there and I said, look, if you're not completely happy with my service, I'll mow your lawn for the next 6 months for free. And I didn't have any money, so I couldn't employ anybody to do it. I would be having to do it. You know, and
Yep.
there's a guy that's worth $100 million in our area, and he still laughs about that. Like, this is 17 years later. Like,
Yep.
he goes, oh, mate, I should have got you to mow my lawn. And, like, he still says it now. Like, you know, I sell a lot of property for this guy. But it's like, you know, things like that, no other agent, and I'm not saying you should do the lawn mowing thing, but, you know, I think that's how Chris is, through your marketing and positioning, I think that's how he's had a lot of people talk about him in that sort of way. And it's memorable. It's great. Just like the Who is MAt Steinwede campaign, I got the idea from a marketing guy, but it was like fudge. I don't know if you probably didn't use it with, but, you know, fudge hair product.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks, mate. Yeah.
Well, fudge hair products just had F with a circle around it, and for about 6 months or even a year leading up to the launch of their product, they put this F with a circle around it all over Oxford Street, all over everywhere, and everyone was going, what is that F thing? Like, it was so powerful. Then when they released their product, they sold so much. And that Who is MAt Steinwede campaign was a 3-stage thing, but it was excellent. It really got people saying, like, who the heck is MAt Steinwede? I can't even say his last name. Who is this guy?
Yep.
You know?
And they're still talking about it now, yeah?
They do. I had a girl join our team just recently, another girl, and she said, oh, remember that Who is MAt Steinwede? She'd be 23 now, so that she would have been like early, like 10,
8 years
12.
old or something, yeah, 10 years old, yep.
She even remembered it.
Wow, that's cool. And then now Simon Thomas went from being a coach to back to listing and selling up in my area, and he did a Who is Simon Thomas campaign absolutely based on yours, and it worked great guns for Simon T as well.
It does. Yeah, it just works. It's really good.
Cool, man. Cool. What's your? Well, this is a beauty. I'm a seller, and this is for one. You know how you said you've got some who just call you in, some who call you in unopposed. Now, if you know you're up against your most hated and feared rival, not that you're not feared, because you know that he actually respects you, but the one who you know's got a chance every now and then of pipping Matt to the business. Mate, what do you lead in with if they don't already have Matt up on a pedestal, like many of your people do, but if they don't know you, if they've been hiding under a rock and they don't know Matt Steinwede, is there anything you do at a listing presentation? And I know that we all get, or most of my guys, if my guys are on here, get that, you know, as you said, 80% of that decision is already made before you get there. But say it wasn't, and say you're competing, is there a way you differentiate at the listing presentation that's your point of difference, or USP, or whatever Tom Peters might have called it yesterday and the day before?
Mate, there is. And I don't think it's anything new. I think people would have heard me say this, or heard other people say it anyway. Like, I don't think anything happens in isolation for a start. So when something comes in, let's say it's a great property. A lot of our upper end properties are sort of out of my core area. My core area is just sort of that $500 to $1.2 million range, like in there. But let's say, like today, I went out of area and listed like a $2 million plus, just over $2 million sort of property. But myself or my main competitor would go to any of these ones from 2 to 5 million. And they're always sort of, most of them are out of the area. So the owners don't exactly know me, but they've heard of my name. If they don't know me, for instance. So they call Tim or myself in. As soon as they call in, I reckon it starts there. So your point of difference, I'm going to get to that, but it's like, I reckon you have to be so on your game. And here's something that John McGrath said about Tom Peters yesterday at the end of the seminar. He said when he was on the phone to Tom Peters, now Tom Peters got paid $180,000 to speak at that seminar yesterday.
Wow.
A lot of money.
Wow, yeah.
For two 1-hour slots. John said this. He said, Tom, when I was on the phone to you, the thing that got me most, and this is when he was in America. Now, Tom Peters is like John McGrath's idol, sort of, in the business management world. He said, Tom, one thing I really noticed, and it really impacted me, is how present you were. And I was like, wow, that's interesting. you know, like John's a fussy dude. Like he's a really fussy dude. And he said, when we were on the phone, Tom, you were that present that it really impacted me. Now, you can't explain that, can you?
No. Especially
No.
over the phone, without body language and stuff, that's a really
Yeah.
impressive thing to be able to get across to a guy like John.
Yeah. I reckon I win a lot of business on connected energy. I really do. I think when I'm with an owner, like I talk in a confident way that's directed at them, there's no fluff, it's factual, I'm prepared, I know my stuff, and I prepare. Sometimes I prepare for a day or two before a market opinion. So when I go to somebody's home, I'm that research, and I don't mean research in facts, figures, spreadsheets. I don't use any of that. I only use 2 or 3 things when I present to people. But my conversation has a tone of certainty about it. I don't jump around. I get straight to the point. I talk, but I talk in a way that like is connected with them, like it's directed at them. It's information that they would find interesting. I don't talk at people. I don't talk about myself. I don't talk about any of that stuff. I really tune in to where they're at, and I reckon people feel that. And when John said that to Tom Peters, it was like yeah, I get that. You know, so was it a question of $180,000 for Tom to speak for an hour or two? Like, not really. Like, I don't think the money even came into it. But it was like John talking to Tom, basically sort of impressed before Tom has even come out here. You know, that says a lot. So when somebody rings you on the phone and says, I'm thinking of selling my house, my mind switches present. So present, and I know the listing presentation is starting right now.
Yep.
So what I asked them...
Go ahead. Sorry, mate. Yep, go ahead. My question is, and you can weave this into your answer wherever in your bit now that you feel appropriate. How does speed that it started now? How does speed of that first point of contact? Where does that fit in? But answer that where
the listing kit?
Yeah, as in they've said, hey, I'm thinking of selling, you're switched on. Now, speed of what's going on then and there in your mind, I'm so impressed with how you factor in impressing them as well with your speed.
Yeah, I do. I just have a rule that has to be there within 30 minutes. Like, I'll literally get off the phone from the people and I would drive it to Sydney, or have one of the PAs drive it straight to Sydney. I don't care where they're at, what they're doing, they'll grab the people. As soon as someone wants to sell their house, everyone stops in my team, thank you card's being written, so pitch writing the thank you card, confirming the time. Jimmy's putting together the pre-list kit. Once he's put that together, he gives it to Nick the cadet. Nick drives to Sydney, to Newcastle, to wherever it's got to go. And some of our owners are far away, like we'll drive it 3 hours if we have to. And then once that's done, Jimmy starts preparing all the research for the property. Even though I may know it, he will put together a separate book of all the comparable properties. Even if it's in my core area, he'll still sit there and narrow them all down. Then I'll catch up with him and we'll talk about it, and we'll spend half an hour talking about why he's chosen those, what I think about those, any others, and we'll have a bit of a mini meeting, whether it's that night or tomorrow morning or whenever it may be. And then we'll talk about all of that stuff. We'll go through the marketing campaign. We'll talk about the other options. I might disregard the other options and just take one because I think that's the right one. And then we'll just start talking about where we think it's positioned. Is it the right approach? So I have this catch-up meeting, this conversation with an assistant who doesn't go out listing, and he goes out selling sometimes, but maybe he doesn't go out listing, just to see if I'm on the mark, because sometimes him looking at it from a third-person perspective, he might share an idea with me, and I'm like, yes, that's right, that's that one. What about that property over there? Or he might say, Matt, I reckon you're a bit high on that one, and we'll talk about why. So anyway, that's how prepared that I go to each and every listing presentation. So once that happens, I'll walk into their home. I always get there early. I'll always ring the doorbell early. I have my shoes polished. I'll go in. I'll do my thing. I've always got the agenda. There's an agenda that gets sent out to them. I'll grab that agenda off of them. I'll talk to them about it. I'll pick the 3 top points that they selected out of 8. Then I'll sit there and ask them questions for the next 10 minutes or the next 2 hours. Depends on when I feel they're emotionally ready to be presented to. Once that's done, then you go through all the usual stuff, and then I think my point of difference would be showing them how I'll help them defend their price, if that's relevant to them though. Because if you deal with a person, you've got to find what's important to different people. So that's why I ask questions so much and just have conversations. I don't have books out, I don't have anything out. I'll just sit there and we'll have a conversation around, because I really want to get to know the person. What sort of person are they? What's important to them? And I'm basically tailoring my listing presentation in that first conversation when I'm at their house.
And you start that almost conversational and rapport-filled interrogation, really. You start that on the Help Matt Help You form, don't you, where you're asking them to put in writing what things are important to them, and basically every time they're telling you exactly what you need to do to win their business.
Yeah, that's right. So it's got 8 points, and I'll just pick the top 3, and I say, look, the top 3 things here that I can see is price, marketing, and fees, whatever they, sometimes it's different, but price, marketing, and fees. And I say, oh yeah, I can see why price is. Why are the other 2 are so important to you? And they'll say, oh look, we've sold a property before, but we felt it wasn't marketed right, and I'm like, bang,
yeah,
fantastic. No, I know what I need to spend time on here. I don't stop it there. I'd say, okay, cool. Tell me a little bit more about what happened. What would you like to have seen? Why didn't you think it went as well? Did you want to do some more stuff later but it was too late because you've already been out the market, blah, blah, blah. And they might say the agent didn't advise us. The agent just said go on the internet and that's all, and blah, blah, blah. You don't know. You don't know what's happened in people's lives and how they're making their decisions, because their decisions will be made by their reference points, their previous reference points, not what we say most of the time. They'll link it back to experiences that they've had before, and sometimes they're very hard to wrestle with unless you tune into them first and get rid of them first and then start providing a solution to them. Because we might go in. See, someone could have spent $10,000 marketing a property and had the worst experience ever. And then you go in as an agent going, oh, we just option everything, and then you start going, well, here's my campaign, it's $6,000, and they just back right off. They're like, whoa, no, you're not for us. No, 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 and they just shut down.
Yep.
And once that energy goes from the meeting, it's really hard to get back.
Yep.
So that's why I just layer upon layer upon layer upon layer in the beginning of the listing presentation. I'm formulating my whole listing presentation, even though I've got the structure. This is why training is very dangerous, I reckon, with training structures and this, say this, do this, do this, do this, do this. I reckon intuition is your biggest tool in a listing presentation. And the only way you can really tune in with your intuition, so many people say to me all the time, you're just so intuitive with where I'm up to and what I need and what I want. No, it's not. It's because I've sat here and asked questions for the last 30 minutes in a conversation that you have no idea what I've been doing.
Yep.
You know, I listed a house just a couple of months ago, beautiful house, fantastic house. Every agent was after it. The lady said to me at the end, and go on to ymat.com, you'll see Mel McHale's video testimonial. She said, Matt, you know why we chose you? I said, why? This is after I sold it. She said, because we really felt that you took the time to understand what we needed.
Wow. Yep.
Now understand, I just auctioned it like all the other houses. I had a campaign that was like $8,000, $9,000 when she had agents saying they'll do it for this and do it for nothing and do it whatever. But all I did was tune into her energy. That's all I did. And then you can provide the solution. Because you can't provide a solution, and that's what a listing presentation is, until you know what people want.
Yep, absolutely.
That's my point of difference, Twids.
Yep, I love it, man. I love it, mate. I'm going to. Yeah. So I've just gone to ymat.com, which is an awesome site. Have a look at that. There's Mel. This thing won't play video, so I won't go to the video. But now, where was that? Mate, I wanted to bring you to one, which is one of your points of difference. And, mate, I tell you, you didn't let me down. I was on a private consult up in the Northern Territory, and we were talking about you. And we were talking about how you made this decision.
Boring conversation.
No, it was a great conversation, mate. Now, there's not many agents up in the Northern Territory, and there's even less that think like us. And Pete, we were talking about you, and we were talking about your decision that you made for buyer inquiries, where you, because I've listened to VPA the system, I've listened to your other systems a bunch of times. Take us through that buyer inquiry, because we inquired on one of your properties, and my apologies, and guys, please don't inundate Matt with inquiries on his listings just to test how fast he goes, but I did, and I apologise, Matt, that there was an inquiry maybe a month or so ago from the Northern Territory, and it was my man. 10 minutes later, 10 minutes, you had responded. Mate, tell us about that decision and what drove that and how you used that in your listing presentation to absolutely cement the deal.
Yeah, 10 minutes is slow, by the way. Like, I feel that's on the slower side. I would like to, like for many years, it's within 5. I would really like that. So to hear 10 minutes, I'm like, okay, maybe we got the ball a little bit.
Wow.
But can I just say also this main point of difference for many years, the negotiation pod, before I really knew people, was my point of difference, and I would show people how I will protect their price if I had the opportunity to represent them.
Yep.
And that's the most powerful thing you can do in a listing presentation, I think. But
yeah. Role play what you would do, isn't it? You know, because that's one things that we teach is role play what you're going to do to a buyer and show them how when they bought a house that that other agent wasn't as skillful as you, and how you can demonstrate that you're going to smash it for them.
Yeah, yeah. And I know I talk about energy and connecting, and I know we all know that sort of stuff, but like my point of difference today is probably different than it was 10 years ago. Mm-hmm. Anyway, so that inquiry thing is really good to do, but you've got to be able to deliver as well. So I talk about the internet, and everyone talks about the internet, and this is why it's so stupid that everyone's getting caught up in realestate.com and all this stuff, whatever, how much things are. It really doesn't matter. The real estate, like I say to people, do you use the net? And they say, yeah, we use the net. And what's your favourite site? Like, I just want to know what they use, just get the conversation going. And then most of them say realestate.com. So, okay, cool. I say, have you ever inquired on a property? And some people say yes, some people say no. And if they say no, then I'll use an example. But most people say yes, and I say, oh, how long does it take for the agent to get back to you? And they say, oh, they didn't. Or they say, oh, you know, that night or whatever, like a long time. I say, okay. If you were a buyer in Sydney and you took the time to inquire on a house, how long would you really like for the agent to get back to you? And they say, oh, we sort of like, you know, soonish, like a response in a reasonable amount of time. If it was a day or two, would that be too long? Yeah. How would you feel with that agent if, you know, if you liked the property but they took a day or two to get back to you? How would you feel about them? Oh, you know, we feel that they didn't really care much and blah, blah, blah. That links nicely into the negotiation pod that I do later, because I talk about relationships, very important. But I talk about how most inquiries are handled in a real estate office with the internet, and I show them, I talk to them about how I'll handle their inquiries. And a really powerful thing to do, and maybe everyone on here can try it at some point in time, if you don't answer them very quickly at the moment, maybe start, and at some point a buyer will write back to you, and I've got quite a few of them, where a buyer's written back, that's unbelievable, thanks for the prompt response, especially at 7 o'clock at night, whatever, and save it. Because I would say to people, the website really doesn't really matter. Everyone's going to put you on realestate.com, and everyone's going to do this and everyone's going to do that. But I want you to know that as soon as somebody inquires on your home, myself or Trev or one of the guys in my team will respond usually within minutes. And why that's so important, Mr. and Mrs. Owner, because I want your buyer to know that we're representing you, obviously, and we care. We really care about you and we care about them. We care about helping them see the property. And the thing about that, Mr. and Mrs. Owner, how do you feel when someone takes good care of you? What do you think of them?
Well, yeah, think better of them for sure.
Yeah, you usually think like, wow, they really want to help me. And when someone really, you've earned that space, I don't know any of the buyers that are going to inquire on your home. I don't know most of them. They'll inquire from Sydney and all over the place. But what I want them to understand is I'm there to help them. Because come the time of negotiation, Mr. and Mrs. Owner, if I've taken care of them from start all the way up until they're ready to buy the home, and I say to them when the negotiation gets really sticky, I say to them, Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, you can secure this home, but it's going to take $10,000 more to help you purchase the home and get it off the market today. It's going to take $10,000 more, Mr. and Mrs. When I'm trying to get that last little bit, Mr. and Mrs. Owner, and I've helped the buyer from the second they've inquired on the home off the net all the way through, you've got a much higher chance of them listening to me and enabling me to guide them to get that little bit extra. That's what I'm here for, Mr. and Mrs. Owner. Not just to sell your house, it's how far can I take the market. But unless I take care of it from that point, the buyer will more than likely not listen to me if I haven't responded in a day or two.
Yep. Wow.
And when you say that to an owner, and like I draw with it and I do all sorts of stuff, but when you say, that's an abbreviated version, when you say that to an owner, they get it. They get it because they start relating it to other experiences that they've had in the service industries when someone hasn't got back to them or they haven't been taken care of. They don't want to deal with you. They don't like them. They don't like the salesperson because they haven't cared about them.
Yep.
And you show that you care by taking care of them just from that single obscure inquiry.
Wow, nice, man. And did you say that you keep those emails when the other buyers say, wow, that was incredible? And do you keep them, do you say, and take them along as evidence down the track and say, see, this is the sort of thing I get when I do that? Is that what you were implying then? Or yeah, okay.
Look, Mr. and Mrs. Owner, I'll get my phone. I'll say, look, Mr. and Mrs. Owner, I just want to show you an email that I got at 7:43 on Tuesday night. This is the email that I got. The buyer said, wow, thanks very much for the quick response. Really appreciate it. Look forward to coming up and seeing the property. Can we view it tomorrow at 7 o'clock?
Nice. Very nice.
Something like that. So you keep them. And this is why you've got to, Tom Penrose says something like your audio matches your video. I like that saying.
Yep.
Because we actually do this stuff. Like when you do this stuff and you put it out there, you take care of people and whatever, you're going to get these emails back. Then just siphon them away and keep them, and they're very, very powerful. And you know, I say to owners often, get on there tonight, send me a buyer inquiry in a different name if you want, but send me a buyer inquiry and see how long it takes for us to respond.
I love it, man.
So if they're thinking about it overnight and they do that, you can even text them when you leave, look forward to receiving your buyer inquiry or whatever. But I don't do that. You could do that. But if they're thinking overnight, you can't leave the door open for other agents. You just can't.
Yep. Yep. Very cool. I mean, there's the thing, Matty. If these guys implement, and this is a 0.1% of what even I've learned from you, but just think about that one thing that, you know, I've had people say, but how do you do that? How do you manage that? When you decided that this was going to be one of the key performance indicators, that you were going to drop everything to deliver the pre-listing collateral, that you were going to drop everything to respond to a buyer inquiry, did you have any of your team, or did you have any doubts in yourself that, Jesus, no one does this in the whole country, how the hell am I supposed to? Was there any doubt as to whether you could achieve it?
No, Twids. It's just how I do business, mate. I didn't make a decision to do it.
Yep. Cool, man. Love it, guys. Keep up with that. I'm stoked. Very cool. Mate, the last two questions were ones that were worded really well, so I thought I'd put these ones in unedited. This was cut and pasted exactly as it came in. So this one's come from New Zealand, if I'm not mistaken. Mate, can you remember back to when you didn't have enough money to cover the bills every month? What would be one expense that you would not remove in relation to self-promotion and marketing? Maybe reduce it if you had to, but a non-negotiable when it comes to your spending.
Oh, this is such a good question. I can't believe it. It's fantastic because I never had much money most of my career. Oh my goodness. If you only knew, my friend.
See, Matty, if everyone who's got you on a pedestal, they need to hear that because we look up to you as unattainable. I love that for your first 5 years, this was you. And now, man, you're an inspiration, bro.
We've had times in our business, and I'm not joking, where my business partner would come down and he'd say, it doesn't matter what you're writing, it's what you're spending, it's all that sort of stuff as well. Like as we were growing in business, this is before, I know a lot of this is before you own a business, but I just want everyone to understand, there have been times where Jamie has come down and said, Matt, we cannot spend any money, none. Now what do you mean none? Like he goes, so much none that he is not even paying himself.
Wow.
And there's been times like that where we've just gone, we just can't spend a cent. like until we get some revenue back in, you know, because it's all this marketing and stuff is all good, but it's all expensive, you know. And running a business, growing a business, like everyone's been there who's done that. But even in the earlier days, I built my whole career, and I really want everyone to understand this. I built my whole career on letters. Like I did nothing else. I didn't have any money. Like I couldn't even afford nappies when I had my first baby. Like I had no money. And it took me 8 years to pay back the fines that I got from court when I handed myself back in. Like 8 years is a long time. And I would pay, I had this little book and I had to pay every single week that I had to pay those loans back. Like I didn't have money for anything else. So what I did is just, the only thing that I invested in back then was a picture on my letterhead. So my company letterhead with a picture in the top right-hand corner. And I would just do letter after letter after letter after letter. I did that for a lot of years. Cold call, door knock, letters, cost you nothing almost. And this is why your core area is so important. You do that in your core area, and you just go out and meet people and talk to people and be there and be there and be there and be there. We put this thing up saying, like, you know, we've got to market ourselves and we're ads and things and flyers and CMAs. Oh, you don't need it in the beginning. If you've got no money, do all the cheap stuff, because the cheap stuff is actually the more powerful stuff.
Very
I'm not sure if that answers your question exactly, but all I'm saying is don't get too caught up in doing stuff that you think is going to accelerate your presence. I think it enhances your presence in a way, like doing the stuff that's like a CMA. Like Nat sat across the desk from me today and said, Matt, I actually with Jody and said, like the cost of this. I said, well, don't do it. Just do a letter and just do a door knock and just do a smile and just do a call and just do a thank you card that the company provides for you anyway.
Yep.
All of that stuff costs nothing, but just keep doing it until you can afford it.
Yeah. And the one thing that I would add to it, which isn't the question that was asked, but you know, I've heard a lot of people say, you know, we've got to cut the cost of this, cut the cost of that. At least in my opinion, and I have to say this because I'm a marketing junkie, that marketing and promotion should be the last thing to go. Everything else should be, you know, computers and phone bills and, you know, well, phone bills are part of marketing, but everything except, you know, because a lot of times in businesses, the first, not just real estate, in other businesses, the first thing that gets cut is the marketing. And I heard it was now what's his name? The circus marketer guy. P.T. Barnum is famous. One of his famous quotes was, "A funny thing happens when you stop marketing. Nothing." You know, as is to say, nothing will happen if you stop the thing that flows customers in the door. You know, so definitely, you know, get rid of everything else you can before you get rid of the thing that's bringing in customers through the front door. So last one. Go ahead, mate.
I really hope that answers it for that person, like, because whoever asked that, because I really want them to understand, like, you just got to do what you can do. But you're better off doing what you can do, like, really well, even if that might be just the cheapest, easiest stuff, you know?
And I know it's only the 5-minute version on your website at MatSteinwede.com, but I mean, that's really summed up in the "it's all about the lemon" thing. So we won't go into the story now. You can check out the video at Matt's website. But in that case, it was all about a 50-cent lemon, not a $500 gift voucher from Bunnings, yeah?
Yeah.
So go to the website, guys, check out the story. It's all about the lemon, and more importantly, come to Be Phenomenal and hear the hour-and-a-half version of how Matt's going to share that with you. Last question, mate, after my very subtle, shameless plug there. Mate, is it built-in talent? Because mate, I've had people say about yourself, I've had people say it about Amber Wershen, I've had people say it about Chris Gilmore, that, you know, that Amber's success is because she's got model good looks, and that's why she's successful. Chris is successful because he's built with excellence. He's a Formula 3 race car champion, and he's just, you know, everything he does turns to gold. Matt Steinwede is successful because he's got 20 years experience. He's 6'4", and he's ripped, and he's just, you know, gorgeous. You know, is it built-in talent with these traits that you guys naturally have, or can anyone do it if they, you know, can anyone really do it? You know, is the question.
Yeah. Well, I mean, of course it's yes, but like I reckon care is the most underrated thing that we measure people on. And, you know, I reckon that's been my secret weapon. You know, my business partner has said to people for so many years that, you know, if there's one thing he'd say about Matt, he just cares that much about people's experience. And I do, and I have. And that's why I think anyone can become anything they want in this business, but it's sort of measured on care. You know, and I think that's the reason that, you know, it's not even MAt Steinwede, it's just the results I have today is because literally I just out-cared everybody else before and outworked. But I think you can outwork everybody, but if you don't care enough, you're not going to have that thrust. So I've never really thought about, for most of my career, I don't even measure my commission. I don't even think about it. I just, yeah, I was still today, like I wouldn't know what I've written this month. I have to say to Jimmy, mate, are we on track? What are we doing? Like,
Yep.
it's like, I don't think about it, but what I do think about is, you know, am I building my personal brand in such a way that I know it's going to be valuable down the track? You know, it's a little bit like Steve Jobs designing Apple in a user-friendly, easy, beautiful way, and now his company's worth $540 billion, just the brand alone. Like, that's phenomenal.
Yeah.
But he created something that he cared so much about the use of, and that's like with us. If we make ourselves available and easy to use, people like that. Transparency, ease. So yes, anybody can become anything they want in this business, but I really check on your care first.
Very cool, mate. Mate, we got to let you go, man. It's been over an hour. I'm so appreciative, man. I know that your Facebook page is about to get smashed with people saying thanks. I know that, my man. And guys, you know, there's a subtle hint for you. Mate, I can't thank you enough, man. What would you, in closing, mate, you know, I know that we've got an event coming up, 2 weeks. Mate, what's in store from MAT Steinwede? And what's your take on training events of this type? You know, some of those folks on that lineup, you know, some of them you might not know that well. You know, like I don't know how well you know Marcus Ciminello and Phil Harris and stuff. But mate, what's your take on events like this, and what can we expect from Be Phenomenal, both from Matt and your take on the event, both in Melbourne and from your experience in Brisbane last year?
Yeah, I think. Well, look at the lineup. It's awesome. Like ET, all the way out here from America. John McGrath. Like I've heard John McGrath talk, I don't know, a million times. I love every single time he talks, and like it's invaluable. The guy's worth $100 million. He has developed one of the best companies in the country. He's on a trajectory that's phenomenal. He's a hands-on CEO. Just there, like in my opinion, just there listening to him is worth 50 times the ticket value. Just one speaker. So I think every agent in the country should be phenomenal, personally. Not to hear me, I don't care about that. I'm just sort of, like all of these guys, you know, Marcus is doing really, really well. Eric Thomas talks to some of the leaders and the best around the world. So, you know, I'm just excited about going and listening myself.
And how long's it been since you've spoken in Melbourne? It's been like forever, hasn't it?
10 years or so.
Wow. Mate, the Melbourne folks are pumped. They're pumped. So it's going to be great, man. It's going to be great. I can't wait. Very good, man. And thanks, Matt. I tell you, guys, I had to wear Matt down a little bit. It's funny, mate, that you're so humble that that you initially declined, didn't you?
I did.
But I'm a persistent bugger.
You are, mate. You are. But it's good. Very good.
Excellent. Thank you, my man. Guys, I wasn't going to do this, but I will, and I mean this. I wasn't going to do this. In fact, you'll see on my slides that I've just got all the speakers there, and I've got the price, which was $199. But guys, for you guys sitting around, just as thanks to Matt, because I want as many people there to experience this as you can. So what I'll get you guys to do is, if you grab some tickets and just email back saying the Matt webinar, that I'll do 2 for 1 if you guys want to bring a friend. Because what I have found, one of the things I learned from you even, Matt, was that if you, on your stories about your accountability buddies, where you had some stuff with accountability buddies, that if your colleagues, your business partners, whether it's Jamie in your world or whether it's your PA, or even your significant other, your partner in crime, that if she's or he's involved in the business, that that way when you go back to the office, that they know what you've experienced and they know why you're so enthusiastic and pumped. So, guys, if you want to grab a ticket and just mention this webinar, we'll do 2 for 1. Just as thanks, to you guys. Come along. This event is not about profit. It's $199. It's a loss leader for me. This isn't about feel sorry for Glenn. This is, there's no profit in this. This is break-even dollars for me. So, understand that this is about, me putting on the absolute. And this was advice Matt gave me last year, guys. Don't worry about the numbers. Don't worry about this. Don't worry about it. Just put on the event that you would have wanted, the best event you could possibly think of that you would have wanted when you first started in real estate. And I've got to say, with my friends here, with these successful agents, and with my mentors, that includes Matt, it is the event that I would have wanted to go and see when I was building my business. That it's kind of like Kiss. There's a rock band called Kiss. They set out to create a band that they would have always wanted to see, and they never can because it's them, So that's what that's my modus operandi. So, guys, please do that. Matt, thank you very much, my man. Much appreciated. Man, I'm going to see
Thanks, Dave, well, in America.
Dave from Texas. Hey, it's now 5 a.m. over there. Thanks a million. Actually, I'll unmute him just so we can say, catch you later. Where is he? I don't know if I was recording when we first had Dave. There he is. He's still on. He's still with us. Dave, you still with us?
Yes, sir.
He is. Mate, what's your take on what you've just heard from MAt Steinwede on the other side of the globe? Mate, what's your thoughts on that?
I'm 9 months into doing everything that you guys are saying over there. So, I know I have another 2 years of doing this stuff, so I'm really excited. And it's starting to happen. I'm starting to get traction, but what I'm also doing is trying to teach my agents the same thing so I can have it times 4 or 5 or 6 when it does hit. And we had 4 or 5 closings this month already, so it's not that bad, but we're still trying to break even.
Mate, tell me about Amy Steele, Dave. You were telling me, had she not sold a home in a certain period of time, and now what has she done based on your tutelage of these principles?
That's awesome because she was an agent in California for 9 years, almost 10 years, and she sold less homes than I did my first year.
Wow.
And now she just closed her 9th deal for this year, and last year she didn't do any business.
So no business in a year, and
yeah. When I picked her up at an open house, she had 0 closings, and as of the half the year, she's done 9. So yeah.
Wow. Mate, that's awesome. Well, mate, I'll tell you, if you can convince her to come over, her ticket is on me, because it'd be an honour to have. I mean, I'm just stoked you're coming over, man. But if you can bring Amy, man, it'd be an honour to have her to learn this stuff from the horse's mouth. So, man, you've impressed Matty. You've got a fan in MAt Steinwede over here, Dave.
That's awesome. One question for Matt: how do you tell an agent to get over the fear of getting out in the neighborhood? That's Amy's biggest problem. She has a fear of what they're going to reject.
Yeah, I don't. Well, I think the fear of having a crap month is bigger than the fear of talking to a few people. But I think you've got to do it in a way that suits you, like just giving people your business card. And I just say if you're having your thoughts of selling, and then getting up and go. Like after the first one, you get pretty used to it.
Yeah, I've never had a fear of rejection, so it bugs me when I have agents ask me about that. I'm just go.
Well, but Dave, I'll send you a copy of this recording. In fact, with that little bit chopped out, so you can say, "Here's me asking a guy in Australia who's doing millions of dollars a year. Here's me asking it, and here's his answer." Just do it.
That's awesome. Okay,
Very
I make them listen to this too. So
cool, man.
I can't wait to meet you guys. This is going to be awesome.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it. Thank you, Dave. And, mate, have a great day today, Dave, when your day, 5 a.m., your day's just starting. So, man, go out and list a few properties today, bud.
Let me make a shout-out to Mel. I really appreciate her letting me stay with her when I'm there.
Yeah, let's see. I don't know if she's on. Let me just quickly see. She is on, Mel Morris. Let me just quickly unmute her, see if she's got a microphone. Mel, have you got a microphone tonight?
Hi Glenn, I can hear you.
Ah, hello. Our mutual friend Dave is on, and of course, what did you think tonight of your co-McGrath trainer in Mr. Steinwede?
Oh, Matt's amazing. I've already Facebooked him. And I must admit, what he's actually spoken about tonight is what I'm already implementing, and hopefully all going well, I can be another Matt.
Very cool. Matt, is there an incubation period for these things? What sort of, if you started doing as much of this as you can now, what sort of time do you think, has the speed with which this stuff takes effect increased? Is it quicker than 10 years nowadays?
Me? Oh, 3 years. 3 years.
Okay.
3. Also, I'm going to send Dave MAt Steinwede's system as a gift for getting up at 3 o'clock in the morning and listening.
Wow. All right, Dave. I'll get you to send me your address, and I'll handle getting all that stuff to you for sure. Excellent, Matt. Well, thank you, my man. Any parting thoughts you'd have, Matty, before you go? Oh.
No, that's it.
You're good, mate. You're a legend. Thanks, buddy. It's much appreciated. Man, I'll see you tomorrow. In between your 2 appointments, I got to poke a camera at you. Man, thanks for tonight, man, and we'll see you tomorrow, bud. Thanks a million.
All right. See you guys. Bye.
Mate, guys, that's me signing off as well. Please, now that Matt, has nipped off, do go to Matt's Facebook page. Pop a note of appreciation on there. It certainly helps him, social media, branding, all that cool stuff. But I hope you've appreciated that as much as I have, man. Every time I listen to that guy, I'm in awe of how good he is. So, guys, do come along to Be Phenomenal. For those folks who even come to Brisbane, it's a slightly different lineup in Brisbane as Melbourne, but you will get a recording of everyone who you miss in Melbourne, because we can't fit all of the speakers on one 2-day event, but you will get a recording of anyone you miss from Melbourne, and in Brisbane you'll get a vice versa. So the Brisbane people will get the Melbourne recordings, the Melbourne people will get the Brisbane recordings. So you will get everything, and 2 for 1. So go to the site, grab your tickets, 2 for the price of 1. That's less than $100 each. I promise you, if it's anything less than career changing, and that's if you come into state, whatever the case may be. If it is anything less than career changing, I'll refund your money and pay your travel expenses just to boot, just to say sorry. Now, why do I say that? Because I know that last year at Be Phenomenal, careers were changed. Careers were turned around. There were people on the verge of leaving the industry. They came, they implemented, and now they're, in some cases speaking on stages around the country with what they learned. So I'm honoured to be just a part of it. It's going to be great. So guys, please go and tag MAt Steinwede in. Leave a note on my wall if you've had some fun. I have recorded this, so I'll be sending out a copy of the recordings to everyone. So if you don't get that tomorrow, do touch base with me and I will ensure you get it. Guys, thanks so much. That was a blast for me. I know there was hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of money in your pocket if you implement what you learned just tonight, let alone Be Phenomenal. You implement what you learned tonight, your career is going to be put on supercharge. So on behalf of MAt Steinwede, thank you, Matt. Guys, thank you for your attendance. I hope you've learned a lot. Go and implement, because that is the key. One of my early mentors said the power of an idea, Michael Sheargold it was, power of an idea is in its implementation. So go forth, implement, and review this when I send it out to you tomorrow. And if you don't get it tomorrow, just send me an email reminding me, because I'm going to do my best to send it out to everyone tomorrow. Guys, Glenn Twiddle signing off. Thank you. We'll see you in a couple of weeks at Be Phenomenal. See you guys.